We spend our lives fighting for a seat at the table, believing that once we have secured our place, we have carved out a piece of immortality. We believe that the work we do leaves a permanent mark on the stone of the world, and that our absence would be a catastrophe that brings the machinery to a grinding halt. We confuse our attendance with our importance. But the universe has a cruel way of teaching us the physics of the workplace, which is that a bucket of water does not leave a hole when you pull your hand out of it. The water simply rushes in to fill the void, and the surface becomes smooth again as if the hand was never there. This is the story of a man named Marcus, who watched the water rush in and learned that the only chairs that remain empty when we are gone are the ones around our kitchen tables. Marcus worked in the purchasing department of a massive manufacturing conglomerate, a place of humming servers and fluorescent lights where the air always smelled of ozone and stale coffee. He sat next to a man named Henry. Henry was 62 years old and had worked at the company for 35 years. Henry was not just an employee, he was an institution. He was the first car in the parking lot at 6 in the morning and the last car to leave at 7 at night. His desk was a fortress of paper stacks and sticky notes, and he knew the part number of every screw and bolt in the factory by heart. Henry often told Marcus that the company would collapse without him. He would say, "Look at these invoices, Marcus. If I don't catch these errors, we lose thousands." He wore his stress like a badge of honor. He had high blood pressure and a bad back and a marriage that had dissolved into a quiet roommate arrangement because he was never home. But Henry felt essential. He believed that he was the load-bearing wall of the department. He had missed his son's graduation to handle a supplier crisis in Taiwan. He had postponed his knee surgery 3 times because it coincided with the fiscal year end. He gave the company his health and his time and his soul, believing that he was building a legacy of indispensability. Marcus admired him. Marcus wanted to be like Henry. He wanted to be the guy who knew everything. He wanted to be the guy they couldn't fire. The end did not come with a dramatic speech or a retirement party. It came on a Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. Henry was on the phone, arguing with a vendor about a shipment of copper wire. His face turned red, and he was shouting about contractual obligations. Suddenly, he stopped speaking. The phone fell from his hand and hit the desk with a plastic clatter. Henry slumped forward onto his spreadsheets. It was a massive heart attack. The office erupted into chaos. People shouted. The paramedics came. They pumped his chest and loaded him onto a stretcher. As they wheeled him out past the cubicles, his arm dangled off the side, swinging limply. Marcus watched in horror. He saw the man who knew everything reduced to a fragile body on a gurney. The ambulance siren faded into the distance, and a heavy silence fell over the room. The manager, Mr. Sterling, came out of his office. He looked shaken. He told everyone to take an early lunch and to go home if they needed to. He said that Henry was a fighter, and they would pray for him. Henry died in the ambulance before he reached the hospital. The news came via an email from Human Resources at 2 in the afternoon. It was a respectful email. It called Henry a valued member of the family and stated that counseling services would be available for anyone who needed to talk. The office was quiet for the rest of the day. People spoke in whispers. They looked at Henry's empty chair, which was still turned slightly away from the desk, just as he had left it. His coffee mug was still there, half full with the slogan "Number 1 Dad" printed on the side. His reading glasses were sitting on top of the quarterly report. It felt like a holy sight. It felt like a monument that would stand forever to honor the man who gave his life for the ledger. Marcus looked at the chair and thought that surely things would change now. Surely the company would pause. Surely they would see that the cost of this work was too high. But the machinery of profit does not have a pause button. The next morning Marcus arrived at 8 o'clock, expecting a day of mourning. Instead, he saw a cleaning crew at Henry's desk. They were not dusting. They were erasing. They had a large cardboard box. They were sweeping Henry's papers into it. They took the #1 dad mug and put it in the box. They took the framed photo of his dog and put it in the box. They took his sticky notes and threw them in the trash. Within 20 minutes, the desk was bare. It was just a slab of gray laminate. It looked like it had never been touched. It looked like no one had ever sat there. Marcus felt a cold knot in his stomach. He walked over to the cleaner and asked what they were doing. The cleaner didn't look up. He said, "Instructions from facilities mate. Need to clear the station for the replacement." The replacement. The word hung in the air like toxic smoke. Henry hadn't been dead for 24 hours, and they were already clearing the runway for the next plane. By 10 o'clock, the IT department arrived. They wiped Henry's computer. They deleted his user profile. They erased 35 years of emails and contacts and digital footprints. They installed a new phone. At 11 o'clock, a young man walked in. He was in his 20s, wearing a suit that was slightly too big for him. He looked nervous. Mr. Sterling walked him over to the desk. "This is Jason," Mr. Sterling said loudly to the room. "Jason is going to be taking over the purchasing accounts. I know this is a difficult time, but we have shipments that need to be cleared, and Jason is a bright kid from corporate. Let's make him feel welcome." Jason sat down in Henry's chair. He sat in the empty chair, and then he did something that broke Marcus's heart. Jason reached down under the seat and pulled the lever. He lowered the chair. Henry had been a tall man, so he kept the chair high. Jason was shorter. With one simple mechanical hiss, the physical memory of Henry's posture was gone. Jason adjusted the tilt. He put his own water bottle on the desk. He logged in. He started typing. He started making calls. By 2 in the afternoon, Jason was arguing with a vendor about copper wire. He used different words than Henry, but the rhythm was the same. The machine was humming again. The gap had been filled. The water had rushed in. Marcus sat at his own desk, staring at the side of Jason's head. He realized that to Jason, Henry was just a name on a file. Jason didn't know about Henry's knee surgery. He didn't know about the missed graduation. He didn't know that Henry had died for this desk. To Jason, it was just a job. And to the company, Henry was just a faulty part that had been swapped out. Marcus felt a wave of nausea. He realized that he was looking at his own future. He saw himself 20 years from now, slumped over his own desk, dying for a company that would hire a Jason before his body was cold. He realized that the concept of the work family was a lie. Families grieve. Families stop. Families remember. Companies replace. That evening, Marcus went home. He usually checked his emails until midnight, but tonight he left his laptop in his bag. He walked into his kitchen. His wife was cooking dinner. His 2 young children were playing on the floor with blocks. They looked up when he entered. "Daddy's home," they shouted. They ran to him and hugged his legs. Marcus fell to his knees. He hugged them so tight that they squeaked. He breathed in the smell of their shampoo. He looked at his wife, who smiled at him with a mixture of surprise and warmth. He looked at the dinner table. There were 4 chairs. One for his wife, one for his son, one for his daughter, and one for him. He realized that if he died tomorrow, the chair at the office would be filled by Tuesday. Jason or a Mike or a Steve would sit there and the copper wire would still get bought. But the chair at this kitchen table would stay empty forever. No one could sit in it and be him. No one could be the father to these children. No one could be the husband to this woman. This was the only chair that mattered. This was the only chair that could not be replaced. The other chair, the office chair, was a rental. He was leasing it with his time. But he didn't own it, and he never would. The next day Marcus went back to work, but he was a different man. He still did his job. He was still professional, but the devotion was gone. When 5 o'clock came, he stood up. Mr. Sterling walked by and asked if he could stay late to help Jason get up to speed with the filing system. In the past, Marcus would have said yes. he would have stayed until 9. But Marcus looked at the empty chair that was no longer empty. He looked at Jason, who was already hunched over stressing about a deadline. "No," Marcus said. "I have to go home. I have an appointment." Mr. Sterling looked annoyed. "What kind of appointment?" he asked. "An appointment with my life," Marcus said. He walked out of the building. He walked past the security guard. He walked to his car. He drove home under the setting sun. He didn't think about the invoices. He didn't think about the copper wire. He thought about the fact that he was alive. He thought about the fact that Henry had traded his life for a thank you note and a cardboard box. Marcus decided that he would not make that trade. He would work to live. He would not live to work. He understood now that we are all temporary residents in the corporation. We are guests who have overstayed our welcome if we think we are the owners. Years later, Marcus retired. He retired early. He didn't have as much money as he might have had if he had climbed the ladder to the top. He didn't have a fancy title, but he had his health. He knew his children. He still loved his wife. On his last day, he packed his box. He looked at his chair. He looked at the young woman who was waiting to take his place. She was eager. She was hungry. She wanted to prove herself. Marcus smiled at her. It was a kind smile, but it was also a sad smile. He wanted to shake her by the shoulders and tell her the truth. He wanted to say, "Do not give your heart to this place, because it does not have a heart to give back." But he knew she wouldn't listen. She had to learn the physics of the water for herself. So Marcus simply said, "Good luck." He adjusted the chair to its highest setting one last time. He walked out. And before the elevator doors closed, he saw her sit down. She reached under the seat. She pulled the lever. The chair hissed. And Marcus was gone. The empty chair is a ghost story that we tell ourselves every day. We haunt these offices thinking we are the spirit of the place, but we are just the batteries. The tragedy is not that we are replaceable. The tragedy is that we sacrifice the irreplaceable things for the replaceable ones. We give up our health, which cannot be bought, for a promotion that can be taken away. We give up our memories for money. We give up our seat at the dinner table for a seat in the boardroom. Look at your chair tomorrow. Look at the fabric and the wheels and the plastic. Ask yourself what it is worth. Is it worth your arteries? Is it worth your marriage? Is it worth missing your child's first steps? The chair will remain long after you are dust. It will hold another body. It will spin for another master. Do not worship the furniture. Worship the life that allows you to sit in it. Go home. Go home while you still have the strength to walk through the door. Go home and sit in the chair that has your name carved into the hearts of the people around it. That is the only throne that matters. That is the only kingdom that will not fall when the stock market crashes. The work will always be there, but you will not.